Hey guys, happy Wednesday. Welcome back. In today's video, we'll be covering the latest updates around the Bitcoin market. We'll also be talking about technical analysis. I'll be sharing with you technical analysis, price predictions of Bitcoin. We'll be covering the latest updates around strategy, what the technical analysis shows with the movement of MSTR stock, along with technicals of the big three Bitcoin miners. How high can the big three Bitcoin miners go? Is now a time to buy, sell, or hold Bitcoin strategy in the big three miners? Which one really has potential for a breakout? And how high can we really see Bitcoin go in the year 2025? And what does that mean for these Bitcoin hedged stocks? Now, if you're new to this channel, first off, I would really appreciate you hitting the like, subscribing to alliseeisW for more related content. Let's begin, guys. First, let's take a look at this post from Fiat Archive. So, Fiat Archive announced that Tom Lee calls for 250,000 Bitcoin by year end and 3 million longer term. We think about it, Bitcoin is still in that early discovery phase. We haven't really seen Bitcoin break out in this cycle yet. And this is very bullish for Bitcoin, having it consolidate with where we are right now around that price range of above 100,000. Can you think about it? Bitcoin surpassed 100,000 and now it's sitting above 100,000. That's the new floor support level that we're seeing. Fiat Archive also posts that BlackRock buys 545 Bitcoin and they actually hold now 660,100 Bitcoin. So when you think about BlackRock, that one of the biggest financial institutions, they continue to stack Satoshis, in terms of their total HODL, 660,000 Bitcoin compared to strategy, at 580,000 Bitcoin. BlackRock continues to buy Bitcoin and they won't stop now. They're just a moving and running engine trying to acquire as much Bitcoin as possible. And soon enough, it seems like they're about to get over 100,000 Bitcoins, versus what strategy holds. So this is a good sign because why eventually the exchanges are going to be depleted with Bitcoin. We know that the mining capacity. There aren't too many Bitcoins to be mined compared to the rate of purchase right now. So that will only lead to a Bitcoin, increased demand, supply shock all around the world. Look at this visual. I mean, the United States early on, it was like very few orange states, but now most of the states are orange. So orange is the new black right now. And we only have a few states, a handful of states that haven't really embraced and adopted Bitcoin yet. But as we look at the state reserve race, so the dominoes have really fallen already. New Hampshire was the first state to get SBR enacted, Arizona as well. We have a number of proposals across many states, but soon enough, we're going to hear Texas have SBR officially enacted into law, where that state, Texas, which is like the eighth biggest, you can think of Texas as a country in terms of Texas. They're like ranked number 8 when it comes to gross domestic output. So as soon as Texas gets approval, that's really going to be a game changer with Bitcoin price. Looking at the top 100 HODL companies. So this is from HODL 15. I highly recommend following him. But we see that strategy obviously is number one when it comes to public companies. We also have Marathon Digital. I mean, they announced big time numbers yesterday, having, close to 950 Bitcoins mined in the month of May with a huge number of blocks awarded. 21 Capital is continuing to stack Satoshis. Riot Platforms, the second biggest Bitcoin miner, they have a HODL of like 19,211 and was able to ramp up their Bitcoin mining. They actually mined like over 514 Bitcoins for the month of May. CleanSpark, is coming out strong with the big HODL as well. 12,000 Bitcoins, surpassed Tesla Hut 8. And when you think about it, CleanSpark, I mean, their hash rate is getting close to that 50 exahash by end of June, which is in several weeks. But just looking at CleanSpark, I mean, they're hashing away. Their total Bitcoin mine was, close to about, 700 Bitcoin. So definitely a huge number when you look at the bit amount of Bitcoin mined. And just think about Bitcoin price being accretive. These Bitcoin miners are definitely undervalued, along with, big time company like Strategy. Let's take a look at a posting from Donald Dean. So he's posting forecasts on Strategy. So his price targets on the near term is $424, $543. What he's saying is that consolidation pattern looks to be nearly complete, which is what is drawn here. The stock has been consolidating for 24 trading days. Targets are at 424 at the 618 fib level and 543 to challenge previous highs. So definitely this dip, just dollar cost average down. Let's say if your cost average is high, these dips are gifts. Why? Because while it goes down, we know that Strategy is just going to climb that stair stepper, and 543, definitely that prior resistance. I think it's going to go higher even in the year 2025, like what Tom Lee is saying, 250,000 for Bitcoin. I really do think that MSTR has that potential to get to that $1,000 range by end of this year. The OG Brett posts today, MSTR M2 still 90% correlation confident. We are at $410 by Friday and $631 by end of July. Very bullish. Also, nice cup and handle formation on both M2 global money supply and MSTR. Stay bullish, friends. Just looking at this visual, you see that cup and handle clearly forming right now, and definitely Strategy is going to follow, the M2 global money supply. It tends to lag, over several weeks, but it correlates with M2 money supply along with Bitcoin, and MSTR is just gonna, run to the moon. Let's take a look at Chris Millis's posting. I highly recommend following Chris as well. He posts really good quality stuff on Strategy, but just going through his overall perspective of Strategy's capital stack, a blueprint of how MSTR finances its Bitcoin-backed empire. Most of you are wondering, how does Strategy pull down different levers to buy more Bitcoin? So that's through convertible notes. Convertible notes are debt that can be converted into equity. They come with downside protection but limited upside. They are senior in the capital stack and get paid first in a liquidation event. We've seen that happen over the course of many events now. Now, with the development of Stripe is preferred equity. It comes with limited downside protection but no upside. It is junior to convertible notes but senior to Strike in a liquidation event. We also have Strike. Strike is preferred equity. It comes with a limited downside protection and upside potential. It is junior to Stripe, but senior to Stride in a liquidation event. And we also have Stride, newly created. It's a preferred equity. It comes with limited downside protection, but no upside. It is junior to Strike, but senior to common equity in a liquidation event. We also have common equity. Common equity is pure ownership. It comes with no downside protection, but unlimited upside potential. It is last a liquidation event. So every layer of the Strategy capital stack, as you see here, is designed to appeal to a different pool of investors based on their volatility, risk, and return goals, optimize capital efficiency, and maximize Bitcoin accumulation. So definitely the different levers that Strategy has designed as part of the company's business model to obtain more and more fiat in order to buy Bitcoin. So that's through convertible notes. We have these multi-layer creations recently with Stripe, Strike, Stride with dividend payouts. And we also have common equity that we hear with different leverage ETFs. So definitely a nice visual to just give you an overall perspective of how Strategy is able to generate more market capital to buy Bitcoin. Crypto Vici posts today an interesting visual on the technicals. So we talked about Mara. So this is a visual on Mara. I highly recommend following Crypto Vici if you are, a follower of Mara. But here's a nice technical layout of what we're seeing on the charts. So we're definitely seeing an inverse head and shoulders pattern drawn out with Mara. We have that left shoulder. We have this low tier, head being formed, sub $10. It was like 980, and we see this right shoulder pattern forming. This is like one of the best technical analysis indicators to really leverage. Why is that the case? Well, it tends to have a probability of share price going up. And I really do think that Mara is significantly undervalued, where there's potential for it to break out and just stay until the end, where I'll give you my price prediction. I post today that Riot is ready to erupt. Riot is coiling up tight, volumes building, price is flirting with the breakout. The chart screams next leg up as Bitcoin holds strong above key support. Once this miner runs, FOMO will be unreal. I mean, it's really trying not to time the market, but time in the market. Are you positioned or watching from the sidelines? Here's one interesting takeaway. We saw this thing even before this run up, the last bull cycle. We saw a similar run up as well around that Q4, Q1 timeframe. So are we going to see that, banana vertical shape run up that's going to be happening this year? What quarter will that be? Or will it be Q1 of 2026? We don't know, but I definitely do think that, it has that dormant like type of performance, like altcoins like Stellar Lumens, Ripple, XRP, and it could just blast off from here on out. Ace of Trades, I highly recommend following Ace of Trades as well. He posts his CleanSpark chart update, just based on his perspective. He's saying that a textbook inverse head and shoulders forming one of the strongest bullish reversal patterns in the game, and it's signaling liftoff. From here, it's up. Get ready for clean sparking. Obviously, we see higher lows being established along with, the head and shoulder formation. So definitely some upside with clean spark as well. Let's pivot over to the technical analysis. So what we're looking at is the weekly performance of Bitcoin. So key thing is that we're hovering above that Ichimoku cloud. It's sunshine and rainbows right now after that huge, sell off, from November all the way to like, April timeframe. So that was like almost half a year of it going down in terms of price. A lot of people were selling Bitcoin. ETF outflows were, people didn't have that, investor confidence in Bitcoin. But what happened since we broke through that Ichimoku cloud on the weekly candle? And I do foresee that what we're seeing on the MACD on the weekly candle, we're expected to see, vertical green, candles on the MACD. We see that, intersection point with the MACD. That's definitely a good sign on the weekly candle. We're just going to see more and more green verticals being formed here. What does that mean? I think the month of June, we may very well have Bitcoin, break into that 120 range. And can we get to 140? But as we head towards year 2025, towards the end of the year, we may very well get to that $200,000 Bitcoin price. We're looking at MSTR's technical. So what are we seeing on the weekly charts? We're seeing a cup and handle form. And what are we seeing on the MACD? We're beginning to see, bullish divergence. And I'm expecting that, we're going to have, vertical green candles be established. A good sign is that, we have this, bull flag being drawn out, at the tail end of the cup and handle, that handle's forming similar to a bull flag. And what does that mean? I do think that we're going to have that V shape with strategy. A lot of people have been, moving their money around with the Bitcoin treasury companies like Metaplanet, CEP, along with like Semler Scientific, other Bitcoin treasury companies, but they are not realizing that strategy is the king company, why they have the biggest HODL when it comes to public companies. And we're going to see strategy just lift off in terms of its share price, getting into that 1,000 range in the year 2025. Let's look at Mara technical analysis. So we're looking at the weekly chart. One of the key things is, we see price breaking out of that bull flag after that heavy pullback from that run up top of November. We see an inverse head and shoulder formation, since that intersection of the moving average, we've seen just bearish activity coupled with, bearish convergence on the MACD. Obviously, you see these red candles, but what has happened since, early April? We've seen RSI pick up. We've seen MACD reversal patterns, bullish divergence. So things are changing now, and we're soon going to be seeing the moving average crossing. So we will expect to see a blue, cross in between the orange and the green. And what does that mean? Mara's share price, it's ready to break out significantly. I mean, this share price at one point it went from like $3 to like $80 on the last bull cycle, but I definitely do see 3 to 10x potential just based on the technicals of what we're seeing. We're looking at Riot Platforms, similar type of performance with Mara. I mean, Riot is a Bitcoin miner. They're positioning themselves, not only to be a Bitcoin miner, but also HPC AI. So definitely some exciting news. What are we seeing on the charts? We're seeing it break out of the bull flag as well. We're seeing that, that intersection, the reversal, the MACD on the weekly. We're beginning to see the vertical green candles be established on the weekly. What are we seeing as well? Inverse head and shoulders, definitely one of the best technical indicators to consider as we expect price to, appreciate from here on out. Level one, we want to see it, retest that, prior resistance of $10. And then, we may very well retest that $12, which we saw hover for like, over 4 months, in 2024 through like, 2025. And I really do think that Riot, can very well just break out. It could just moonshot. This thing, when it runs, it could run significantly. And, how high can it run? Can it go to like $40, $80, 150? You name it. I think anything is possible in this game. We're seeing a lot of stocks just have big time run-ups just recently, and I wouldn't estimate this stock as well. We're looking at CleanSpark. So CleanSpark is a big time Bitcoin miner, a pure Bitcoin miner, getting their hash rate up close to 50 exahash, mining close to about 700 Bitcoins per month. Inverse head and shoulders, we're also seeing the same thing. Also, MACD showing signs of a reversal pattern. One of the things is we haven't seen CleanSpark break out of that bull flag yet, but I do think that it's coiled up, it's primed to break out. In fact, there's a lot of people on X posting that, in the month of June, CleanSpark may break out to $24. So that'll mean that it will break out through this level two prior resistance of, we have to get beyond that $16, and we may just very well be off to the races to get to that level three prior resistance. So definitely some huge upside as well in the year 2025, where CleanSpark can, go 3 to 5x potential as well. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what your thoughts are, what your predictions are. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you haven't already done so, please make sure to hit the like, subscribe, turn on the bell notification for more related content. And always remember, stay humble and stack sats.